Warning, this video contains images that might not be suitable for vegans. Viewer discretion advised. Gordon Ramsay. Beef Wellington. Me. The threesome that has never met. Until now. On this special episode of Ari Cooks, a segment which has not been seen in over 2 years, I will be making Gordon Ramsay's famous Beef Wellington. Alright, I'm going to be honest, I've never made Beef Wellington before. It's kind of a weird dish. If you don't know, Beef Wellington is a piece of meat, specifically a beef tenderloin, which has been briefly seared on the cooktop, brushed with mustard. Gordon's pro tip is never use French mustard. This is a very English dish. But hold on a second, it's actually not English at all. It's French. Well, actually African, but it was allegedly discovered by the Duke of Wellington, except he didn't actually discover it. He just really liked eating it, so people started calling it Wellington. Then you get some prosciutto. You slice up mushrooms and then put them on that and wrap that around the meat. And then you make puff pastry and you wrap that around that, so it's like a Russian doll of deliciousness, and then you bake it in the oven. And it's honestly, it's kind of a bizarre combination, but it works. It works really well. I don't know how it works, but it just works. The first step is ingredients, so I hopped in my car and headed off to the grocery store. So you already know everything that's in this dish because I've just explained it to you, but I wanted to have some like cutaway where I go to the grocery store. I feel like this is a good time to tell people to make sure that they have basic spices. It sounds crazy, but some people just don't have salt and pepper. I don't know how they live. There it is. It's the massive $60 slab of meat. I actually ended up asking the guy if they had anything smaller, but they only had pork. So I decided to just bite the bullet and spend the $60 because, like, it's Beef Wellington. It's literally beef in the name. Also, I'm Jewish, and I didn't want to be a bad Jew, even though there is Parma ham. The point is, I ended up getting the big beef tenderloin, and it was really expensive, so please like the video, because that has any relevance to anything. This mustard is absolutely delicious. Coleman's mustard just doesn't get enough praise. I then grabbed a ticket to wait for my Parma ham, which I thought was going to be $7.99 a pound, but actually ended up being like $17.99 a pound. So, please like the video again. And then I drove home and in my convertible, which I own. Upon returning to my laboratory, I got right to work on the puff pastry. This is supposed to work. I can't imagine it does, but despite sounding elaborate, extravagant, and extremely complex, puff pastry is actually only made up of 4 ingredients. I later learned that mixing the flour and butter in a bowl doesn't really yield the best texture. A far better method is to crisp brown the butter into everything else. No matter how you reach that dough-like consistency, wrap it in some saran wrap and throw it in the fridge for at least 30 minutes. This time is a great opportunity to prepare the meat. How do you do, fellow kids? It looks the same as that, right? If you weren't able to get a pre-butchered tenderloin, you can cut it all down. I'm not an expert at this, but I think I did a good enough job. Next, I chopped up my mushrooms and threw them in the food processor. Pull out your freshest slices of Parma ham, and I don't know, the shot was cool. We don't need those quite yet. It was around this point when I kind of forgot what I was doing and consulted the recipe.
Now, look at it. It's beautiful. First, the most important part is to sear it. Salt, pepper, the fillet is the leanest.
He's going like a million miles an hour, Jesus. I'm gonna try to do this at Chef Gordon speeds. The speed that he's working at, it's like the bop it. Twist it, season it. We're gonna sear it high as you can go, little olive oil, and make sure you, it's good. Let's do that again. Make sure your pan is as hot as possible to ensure a nice sear. No, not quite yet. We have a few more things to do. Replace the meats with those blended things, the mushroom. Well, basically, these mushrooms are very wet, so you need to get the moisture out. So in this case, any pan does the trick. If you have a Ben Shapiro pan, even better.
There's something that is going on here that is not biologically normal.
Well, the mushrooms are evaporating. Brush the meat with mustard. I don't have a brush, so I just have to use a spoon. Chef Ramsay uses a brush.
Just lightly brush.
The longer I spend working on this dish, the more I realize it's ridiculous. Like, who even thought of it? Who thought that this would make a great combination? I've never eaten it in my life. This is one of the few things I have never eaten. Well, the meat sits, pull out some sling wrap and adjust your Parma ham accordingly. This is my absolute favorite snack. I'll know I found the right one when instead of someone giving me flowers, they just present me with a bouquet of these. Scoop your mushrooms onto the Parma ham, flatten it out so you get a nice even layer. Place your tenderloin in the very center of it and wrap it up into a nice little oval thing. Huh? What do you think? While your meat opal sits in the fridge, pull out that puff pastry and roll it into a nice thin sheet. Grab a few eggs, separate them from their yolks, and mix them together to create an egg wash. Extract your meat, place it in the middle of the puff pastry, and use that egg wash to kind of make sure everything sticks together. Brush your loaf with some more of that yolk. This will give it its nice color, give it some designs if that's your thing, and preheat the oven to 425. You're going to cook it for 30 to 45 minutes, or until golden brown and delicious. Unfortunately, it was way too watery and extremely overdone.
How the fuck do we know?
The middle looked a little better, so I decided to serve that. Being that the meal was completely cooked and the guests had taken their places, there was only one thing left to do. Share it on Twitter. Well, that's good. Something's not right. There we go. As a food, Gordon Ramsay's beef Wellington. Delicious. 9.5 out of 10. No question. It's excellent. Beef Wellington is decadent. Its combination of flavors is royal, and it's something that you can only eat one slice of even if you wanted more. It's the type of dish you only serve with your best guests, and for that reason, it ranks 9.5 out of 10. In terms of ease of cooking, I wouldn't say I'm a great chef by any stretch of the imagination, but when it comes down to it, I can cook stuff. In other words, unlike my last girlfriend, I know how to boil water. I'd give it a 7 out of 10 in terms of difficulty, just because it's kind of difficult to get the meat exactly how you want it, considering that you effectively cook it twice, and one of the times is inside of a loaf of bread. I did, however, end up cooking it again for Christmas dinner and got the medium rare absolutely perfect. Overall, I'd say this is definitely something you should take a shot at. If you want to see more cooking videos, leave a comment with whatever you want me to cook next, and as always, thanks for watching. My only real complaint is that Gordon Ramsay didn't reply to me on Twitter, which, to me, says I did a really good job. Okay, I'm done.